What's up, Game Boys and Girls? Big T here, back with another video, and this one is to celebrate the GOAT, the greatest game of all time, in my opinion, Ocarina of Time. I can't believe it has been 25 years since this game came out. Makes a brother feel old, and but it is a great celebration of a great game. Some people will say nostalgia is the reason I put it as my greatest game of all time. People say that a lot of times about, games that came out a long time ago. I think it's sometimes fair when you're talking about games that you played when you were a kid. But I wasn't a kid when this game came out. I was a grown-ass man. And I still feel that way about this game today, having played everything I've played before it and everything I've played after it. I'm just feeling like impact wise, just blown away wise, it's going to be hard to mimic what Zelda did. And again, I understand that coming from somebody who is younger perhaps and grew up in the 3D era of gaming, or grew up during the 360 or whatever, this game, you look at it like, oh, what's the big deal there? But there was just nothing like it, and it influenced so many games after it came out. A lot of games that you guys may play that you don't realize, because a lot of games, no games were doing this thing right before Zelda did it, and some games still didn't get it right until years after. I don't know what it is about the Nintendo 64. As you guys may know, it is my favorite gaming console of all time because, again, impact-wise, there is nothing like the feeling I got playing the N64 for the first time and throughout its generation, as far as how it made me feel as a gamer, how it kind of changed my perspective on gaming. It is a game console that made me a gamer, that made me identify myself as a gamer. It was just that amazing. And it's hard to tell people this because if you weren't there, you just don't get it. Now, specifically when it comes to Zelda, the thing, or Ocarina of Time specifically, the thing that it did so well, besides the transition, was it showed developers how to do a game in 3D, how to do combat in 3D, which was, still pretty difficult at that time, and nobody had really done it well. And you'll hear developers, to this day talk about how Ocarina of Time changed the development process, how it changed how games played in 3D, because before it you just didn't know how to have two combatants in 3D fight each other without it being clunky and awkward. And Z-targeting is what did that. Now, Z-targeting is just about in everything now, and you don't even think about it, but Ocarina of Time was the first game to introduce that. And it's crazy how should I say, how impactful, not impactful, but how what's the word, breaking, not record breaking, innovative, how innovative that game was. Just being itself, coming from the transition, coming from a 2D kind of top down game to a 3D game flawlessly. Nintendo somehow was able to make that transition look really easy with these games, and Zelda was no exception. It was probably the peak of their abilities of transitioning all their games over from 2D games to 3D games, and it worked, and it just looked so easy for them to do that. And development cycle for Ocarina of Time wasn't the best. I think it got delayed a year, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously it was worth it, and it needed to be, because Nintendo was just implementing magic. The Z-targeting system, like I said, made combat in a 3D game actually fun and not kind of a chore like it had been up to that point with the camera system. The things they did with the auto jump They programmed some stuff into this game that they kind of just took out, like being able to jump. You could jump on your own before, and savvy modders have gone in and found out how to bring back the jump button. But taking that out and making it a kind of an automatic thing helped, with the camera, and helped with the targeting and all that, the Z targeting. And you lock onto a character and you parry around that character as you lock onto them. That's something that happens in games today. Bigger game, or not bigger games, but games that have accolades like the Batman games, right? The Arkham games. You kind of target yourself around one character at a time, and you're able to fight all these characters, and it makes it that fluid. It makes it work really well, and that is a testament to what Ocarina of Time did, because no other game was doing that at that point. And you look at the game now, and Ocarina of Time is an open world game. Obviously, it had limitations of the hardware at the time, but you look at that game now, you probably think, oh, well, it's not that much. You look at Hyrule Field, it looks tiny, but it was massive to us back in the day. Obviously it's sectioned off. It's not completely open, but it is open. It allows you to go, once you go through the tutorial section, which is pretty smart. Again, you get your sword and you get your shield, and you basically handle what happens in the Deku Tree. You can go out into the world and pretty much go anywhere, with some limitations. Some stuff is kind of walled off. But you get to see it. You get to realize that, there's something going on over there. And because of the nature of the game, it worked for, an open world game in '98. That's what it was. That was the epitome of being able to play a game like that. And I just remember there's so many little things that make this game great. Just like waking up in Kokiri Forest and in the little town area, and just the visuals blew me away back then. Frame rates and all that stuff, that matters, but I didn't really feel it, I didn't really think about it, that the game was running at 20 frames per second. It's like a lock 20 basically, and you see it, but it doesn't. Nintendo has found a way to make it not like, oh my god, it just totally bothers you. Because I can still go back to that game today and not have any problems playing it at 20 frames a second. It doesn't really bother me. It's just that Nintendo magic. Just the little, I don't know how you call them, little cotton flies or whatever. All the little effects in that forest area. The sound design was amazing. Hearing the water running and, your fairies and all that kind of stuff. And just all the little sounds you would hear. Walking out of your little treehouse for the first time, it was just amazing. The whole cinematic nature of it, and I mean, whether the game goes into like a 16:9 kind of sets resolution, or not resolution, but 16:9 kind of checkerboard thing, and it looks really cinematic and it looked really good. And I think that was one of the things on the back of the box that it talked about. The immersive storyline and environments drawn into an amazing 3D world, time travel, blah, 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 blah. I could have sworn that the cinematic thing was on the back. Maybe it's not. But this is obviously the box here. This is the million seller box, player's choice once it sold a million. I no longer have my beautiful gold plating box. I've been looking to rebuy that, but everybody wants like $200 for a box, and I don't know if I want to spend that. But obviously, you can see there, one Game of the Year 1999. And this is still the highest rated game out there. Obviously, there wasn't as many reviewers back then, so that's kind of unfair. But I'm glad, that this is kind of the game that's locked at that level. Now, if a game comes along and beats it, I'm fine with it, because it means it's a really stellar game to come along, especially in this era with as many reviewers as we have today. I would be fine with that, but this game is just magical, man. Pulling the sword from the stone and Temple of Time for the first time, and just that whole cinematic after that, and waking up and realizing that it's been 10 years. You got a little bit of that in Breath of the Wild, but you didn't really change physically in 100 years. So, but it is still kind of harkened back to that. Just fighting a Stalfos for the first time, or the Dark Nut it was like amazing. You walk in that little hall, and the Dark Nut comes out, and you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna fight this thing? This is crazy. And you see the graphics were amazing back then, and you see like the reflective kind of armor and how cool that looked. Seeing Ganon on that horseback. I remember when I first started the game, I didn't even like play it for like the first 15 minutes. I just let the game run, and you get to see the title screen and just like that was just amazing to me. And hearing that music, I immediately realized right away that was the flute sound from The Legend of Zelda, the first game. I don't know if it was in the second game or not, but the flute, and it was also the warp flute from Super Mario Brothers, because it was the same team that was making these games. And so in Super Mario Brothers 3, you play the little flute and you would warp. You can warp to, a different world or whatever. And I was just like, that is amazing. They turned that into theme music. They turned the little flute sound into theme music, and that was just amazing to me. And so I just sat there and watched the opening play over and over again when you boot the game up, and just watch that. I remember picking up my copy at Software Etc. For you old heads. There was no GameStop. There was like Babbage's and what's the game? The toy. KB Toys, KB Toy Store, and there was Blockbuster Games. Blockbuster, the rental place, had their own game store for a while. That was cool, and I got mine from Software Etc. I remember because they had a pre-order bonus where you can get a T-shirt, and it was just like the logo or whatever. It was a black T-shirt, and it had like all the Zelda stuff was in gold with the sword and all that. And I remember how it smelled. To this day, I still remember how that imprinting on the T-shirt smelled. It was glorious. Man, what a great, amazing time. Fighting King Dodongo for the first time. I remember that being like playing on the TV and Software Etc. The store. That King Dodongo kind of rolling out, and then they don't show the fight, thank goodness. They didn't spoil it that way, but they kind of spoiled it. King Dodongo rolling out, and you have that battle with him. He's the first, right? No, is he? No. He's the cave, the one from the mountain. When you go up to, you see the Gorons and all that stuff. He's in that temple, and that was an awesome, amazing fight. I remember thinking that is great. There's just so many really cool memories with this game. The Rumble Pack and the what would they call the something, the stone that would shake the Rumble Pack when there were secrets around. I mean, that was just mind blowing. Again, we had just gotten Rumble in video gaming, and Nintendo was already using it in ways that was different from just force feedback. They were using it in ways to give you clues. So here's a clue. There's something over there. Your controller is rumbling, and it's just amazing, bro. Like, this game changed who I was as a gamer, changed my personality, or contributed to my personality. And just sitting and playing the Ocarina, you can free play. Yeah, I remember this, like the little quirky characters, the little frogs that would sing, and you playing just all these little weird things that there were kind of secrets in the game. The Skull Kid, before what happened to him when Majora's Mask, and just like playing these different notes, trying to figure out these little secrets and puzzles. Amazing. I mean, the game itself is just amazing. The way it was set up to where it was starting off. Nintendo had first envisioned it being like you go into Ganon's castle or whatever, and you go into different portraits the same way you do Mario 64. If you don't know, Mario 64 was the engine for Ocarina of Time, but obviously it changed dramatically over the development cycle, and they paid homage to the whole jumping into portraits thing with the the Forest Temple fight against Phantom Ganon. So when he comes out of there's a bunch of little portraits around. You're in this kind of octagon or whatever, and there's a bunch of portraits around. And Phantom Ganon comes out of different portraits, and you got to pick the right one before he hits you. And that is an homage to the original vision of the game, which was very similar to jumping in portraits like Mario 64. There's just so much stuff I could talk about with this game. I can't believe it's been 25 years already. It's still my favorite of all time, hands down. Other games have come out and come close. Breath of the Wild came close, but it just didn't have the consistency throughout the way this game did, and just being amazed, and just the music and the graphics and the story, the atmosphere. The dungeons were great. The boss battles, like, this game did so much, and in a great year of gaming in general. It stood out. It stood out big time in a year where there were big, huge games that came out that year, and it's still thought of as the best year in gaming, 1998. So, yeah, that's my homage, my my tribute to what I consider the greatest game of all time, Ocarina of Time. Just a fantastic game, and I judged games after it based on Ocarina of Time, just like how does it stack up. Similar games, adventure type games, and most of them did not come close. And again, in this era, this game coming out and as good as it was just mind-blowing how good Ocarina of Time was. It's still my favorite Zelda game, and still my favorite game overall if I judge the history of my gaming. So yeah, there it is. Let me know what you guys think. Do you have some cool memories of Ocarina of Time? I have so many more I could share. Just getting calls from my girlfriend at the time. What are you doing? And she could hear like the Forest Temple music in the background. She's like, "Oh, you're playing Zelda again, aren't you?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm all in. Sorry, we can't go out tonight. I'm playing Zelda." It's a fantastic game, fantastic time, and let me know what you guys think. If you have any stories, share them below. Thank you again for watching and listening, and now see you folks next time. Peace out.